doi, ICA 2023 N0322. Louis Kahn and his architectural principles. Influence on the work of the architect Milton Barragán D. Arch Miriam Mercedes Zagui Barreto. Abstract. The general objective is to compare the architectural criteria used by Louis Kahn in projects by Milton Barragán D, based on the analysis and identification of projects developed with these arguments, allowing to establish the criteria of the modern movement in the composition of the project, based on the case of chosen study. The antecedent of the modern movement in the 60s and 80s in Ecuador, the architectural influence of Louis Kahn through the design of the Ciespal Building projected by Milton Barragán, adopt principles of modernity present in their materiality and universality. Helio Piñón describes in this way, the task given a building, look for its architecture. The methodology is based on the book The Modern Project by Cristina, Gastón and Teresa Rovira. It facilitates the process for the researcher, indicating paths, relieving procedures, systematizing results, with a descriptive analysis through bibliographic reviews, and a graphic analysis will allow understanding the architectural criteria used in the project. Finally, verify the proposed hypothesis and meet the objective. Keywords: Louis I Kahn, Architecture, Modern Movement, Milton Barragán D. 1. Introduction. Currently in the urban context, it is a widespread fact that the formal resolution of an architectural work is carried out without taking into account its influence in the city, due to a devaluation of the importance of the built form as a structuring entity and ordering of the void. Piñón 2005. In the urban context of the city of Quito, there are examples of architecture developed in the periods of the 60s and 80s. A clear example are the works Milton Barragán D, loaded with formal, functional, and constructive values that could be located within the guidelines of the modern architecture. For this reason, it is important to investigate and identify quality architectural work where there are elements that contribute to the design and construction based on the influence of the modern movement. In addition, this research is pertinent, because it will be possible to identify a quality architectural work, after a thorough review, where there are modernity criteria among its elements that contribute to the current design and construction, since it is an instrument to conceive the form. Likewise, it is important to know the accuracy and precision with which this project of the modern movement was drawn, in order to demonstrate the architectural quality of the project. For this reason, a case study of the modern architecture of the architect Milton Barragán is proposed, where the modernity criteria used by Louis Kahn can be evidenced, to contribute to the construction of contemporary projects. Louis Isidore Kahn. He was born on February 20, 1901 on Ossel Island, Russia, into a humble Jewish family who immigrated to the United States in 1905. He began studying architecture in 1920 at the School of Fine Arts at the University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, from where he graduated in 1924. In later years, he devoted himself to traveling and drawing works of ancient architecture. From 1929 he worked with Paul Cret, opening his own office 8 years later. He was a professor at different universities in the United States and received numerous distinctions and honors for his important work in the field of architecture. Milton Barragán D, born in Riobamba, Ecuador, in 1934. He obtained his higher education and degree at the Faculty of Architecture and Urbanism of the Central University of Quito. Specialized in France and Italy. His thesis was carried out with the project of the Chancellery Building, which was built as part of the works of the 11th Pan American Conference. He collaborates in the architecture studio Arcan, and since 1960, he has carried out an intense and valuable activity in architecture and sculpture. Second President of the CAE, Subdean of the FA, 1971 to 1973, Counselor of Quito and President of the Ecuadorian House of Culture. Modern architecture. Modern architecture is enriched with the arrival of the modern movement, the constructions that emerged as innovative ideas and that reconsidered architectural work at the beginning of the 20th century, possibly matured in the 1950s, with the wide architectural production, as well as, unlike other times, with extensive production in terms of bibliography and ideas that were consolidating architecture from functionality into a more solid and discursive concept that took over architectural training. The collective form, criteria of the modern movement in Kahn's work. Of these buildings, the criteria of the modern movement identified in the work of Louis I Kahn stand out: monumentality, shape and design, approximation matter and light, space and structure, the nature of the materials, light as a member of the material, the construction process as a shaper, the two geometries of the structural skeleton, room, space and functionalism, the collective form, case study. Ciespal Building 1973, International Center for Higher Communication Studies for Latin America.
Project overview.
The construction is located on a corner lot occupying an area of 1,900 square meters. The construction program includes offices, a library, an auditorium, classrooms, projection rooms, warehouses, and a parking area, estimating a construction of approximately 5,000 square meters. The building is located parallel to Diego de Almagro Avenue, as it is considered broader and more relevant. The building is located in an area of high commercial activity, between a main road with high traffic, and a secondary road characterized by a high pedestrian influx. The main building, the upper block that characterizes it, agrees with the main road in which it is located, since this was considered more relevant, without existing agreement with the rest of the limits in which the building was located. Program. The building is made up of two sections conceived by different logic, the first that makes up the basement and the first floor, where all the space on the land is used to the maximum, where parking lots, an auditorium for 400 people and offices are located, and in whose central zone the structure that connects the second block is located, which constitutes the private accesses and office areas and other services, which constitutes a block elevated above the second level, in which 3 floors. 4 offices are located, libraries and other extra services. Underground floor 1. Access to this floor is through the stands, entering from the east where the main entrance is located, which leads to the first order road through an overpass and followed by a corridor that connects to the set of stands. There is also another entrance to the basement by a side ramp for vehicular access located to the north perpendicular to the secondary road of the building, which is more private. On this floor is the auditorium at a level equals -4.00 m to the northeast. To the southwest the presidency, public toilets, and a patio. To the north at a level -5.40 m and centrally located toilets. Square of stands and elevator that forms the central structure of the building that will then go up to the upper levels in the shape of a neck. Around this central axis the cafeteria and kitchen are located at a level equals -2.52 m and a work area at a level equals 2.00 m. See corresponding plan structure. The structural system is a leading element of the building, set in this way that when it was located on a lot with a high water table level, as designers both Milton Barragán and Ovidio Wappenstein came to the need to concentrate a single centralized support as a structure, whose predominant material is reinforced concrete that at that time was done manually. For this reason, a tree-shaped structure is established, strictly modular, made up of 9 modules of 7.60 m x 7.60 m around the central core. Composed of a bidirectional ribbed slab, supported by 8 pillars and 8 brackets that collect the vertical loads. The main conclusions of the study may be presented in a short conclusions section, which may stand alone or form a subsection of a discussion or results and discussion section.